And please welcome him with salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Bari digar nare salawat. Jazakallah. बर हबीब खुदा खत्मुल अंबिया इमाम ज़माना बुलंद तर सलावत. जज़ाकल्लाह जज़ाकल्लाह.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ما كان على النبي من حرج فيما فرض الله له سنة الله في الذين خلوا من قبل وكان أمر الله قدرا مقدورا. الذين يبلغون رسالات الله ويخشونه الذين يبلغون رسالات الله ويخشونه ولا يخشون أحدا إلا الله. وكفى بالله حسيبا. ما كان على النبي من حرج فيما فرض الله له سنة الله في الذين خلوا من قبل وكان أمر الله قدرا مقدورا. الذين يبلغون رسالات الله ويخشونه ولا يخشون أحدا إلا الله. وكفى بالله حسيبا وكفى بالله حسيبا ما كان محمد أبا أحد من رجالكم ولكن رسول الله وخاتم النبيين وكان الله بكل شيء عليما يا أيها الذين آمنوا اذكروا الله ذكرا كثيرا وسبحوه بكرة وأصيلا هو الذي يصلي عليكم وملائكته ليخرجكم من الظلمات إلى النور وكان بالمؤمنين رحيما تحيتهم يوم يلقونه سلام وأعد لهم أجرا كريما يا أيها النبي إنا أرسلناك شاهدا ومبشرا ونذيرا وداعيا إلى الله بإذنه وسراجا منيرا وبشر المؤمنين وبشر المؤمنين بأن لهم من الله فضلا كبيرا ولا تطع الكافرين والمنافقين ودع أذاهم وتوكل على الله وكفى بالله وكيلا صدق الله العلي العظيم اللهم صل وسلم وزد وبارك على رسول الله وآله الأطهار على رسول الله وآله الأطهار صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Jazakallah. For brothers who hear, please one more salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. For salam, I request Brother Kumail Ali Khan to please come up and recite his salam. Please welcome him with salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
پر محمد وآل محمد صلوات. تو اگر ہوتا تو ایسا نہیں ہوتا غازی. تو اگر ہوتا تو ایسا نہیں ہوتا غازی. کبھی یثرب تو کبھی سوئے نجف دیکھتے تھے. کبھی تیرے کٹے شانوں کی طرف دیکھتے تھے. شین اکبر کے کلیجے سے نکالی برچی. تو اگر ہوتا تو ایسا نہیں ہوتا غازی. ہو گئی ثانی زہرا بھی ضعیفہ باس. سانس لیتی ہوں مگر میں نہیں زندہ باس. تیرے ٹکڑوں کی قسم تیری بہن ٹوٹ گئی. تو اگر ہوتا تو ایسا نہیں ہوتا غازی. پیاس میں بھی تجھے آواز دیے جاتے تھے. زیر خنجر بھی تیرا نام لیے جاتے تھے. گردن شاہ پہ جب شمر چلا تھا چھری. تو اگر ہوتا تو ایسا نہیں ہوتا غازی. قید خانہ بھی غریبی پہ میرے روتا ہے. لاش مستور اٹھایا کہاں ہوتا ہے، فرض بیٹوں کا نبھائی علی کی بیٹی، تو اگر ہوتا تو ایسا نہیں ہوتا غازی، قبر میں چین سے معصوم کو سونے نہ دیا، وہ ستم ڈھا گیا کانپ گئی کرب و بلا، لاش ڈھونڈی گئی نیزوں سے علی اصغر کی، تو اگر ہوتا تو ایسا نہیں ہوتا غازی، تو اگر ہوتا تو ایسا نہیں ہوتا غازی۔ صلوات۔
جزاک اللہ، یہ تھے کمیل علی خان۔ سلام عرضی کے لیے میں درخواست کرتا ہوں جناب سید احتشام حیدر نقوی صاحب سے کہ وہ آئیں اور مولا کی بارگاہ میں سلام عرضیہ پیش کریں پر محمد و آل محمد صلوات۔
بار دیگر صلوات۔
اللہم صل علی محمد و آل محمد۔ ایک اور صلوات علی محمد و آل محمد۔
نہیں کرب و بلا، عقل بشر میں آ سکتی عقل بشر میں، صدیوں کا سفر ہے، یہاں لمحوں کے سفر میں، جس دن سے بچھائی ہے صفِ ماتم شبیر، جنت نظر آتی ہے اسی روز سے گھر میں آ سکتی نہیں کرو۔
محمد و آل محمد صلوات۔
بانی مجلس کی فرمائش پر سارا میں سب پیش کر رہا ہوں آپ کو، تاریخ کی مناسبت سے بھی ہے اور پسند بھی ہے۔ عشق دنیا اور ولا مرتضی میں فرق ہے، عشق دنیا اور ولا مرتضی میں فرق ہے، جگنوں میں اور سورج کی ضیا میں فرق ہے، عشق دنیا اور ولا مرتضی میں فرق ہے، رہ گئے تھک ہار کر سارے مسلنے کے طبیب، رہ گئے تھک ہار کر سارے زمانے کے طبیب، بھائی نسخے لقمان اور خاک شفا میں فرق ہے، نسخے لقمان اور خاک شفا میں فرق ہے، ایک نے سر کو جھکایا ایک نے مالا، بس یہی کردار حر اور حرملا میں فرق ہے، بس یہی کردار حر اور حرملا میں فرق ہے، عشق دنیا اور ولا مرتضی میں فرق ہے، ان کا ایک بیٹا نبی ہے، ان کے سب بیٹے بھائی حاجرہ میں اور جناب سیدہ میں فرق ہے، حاجرہ میں اور جناب سیدہ میں فرق ہے، عشق دنیا اور ولا مرتضی میں فرق ہے، اور وہاں پر نوح کی کشتی میں بیٹھے اور یہاں پر فاطمہ، نوح کی کشتی میں اور فرش عزا میں فرق ہے، نوح کی کشتی میں اور فرق عزا میں فرق ہے، عشق دنیا اور ولا، درود بر محمد و آل اس شان سے شہیدوں نے خون وفا دیا، اس شان سے شہیدوں نے خون وفا دیا، ایمان کو یقین کی حد سے ملا دیا، اس شان سے شہیدوں نے خون وفا، دنیا کو آخرت پہ کر کے بیدر پردہ جو ذہن و دل پہ پڑا تھا اٹھا دیا اس شان سے شہید رگلا سب کچھ لٹا کے دین پہ زہرا کے لال نے نانا سے شہنوادہ طفلی مٹا دیا اس شان سے یہی آ کر لگا تو تیرے ستم حلق پر مگر اصغر نے حرملا کو ہنسی میں اڑا دیا اصغر نے حرملا کو ہنسی میں حد ظلم کی بتائی تو صبر حسین نے لیکن اپنے صبر کی حد کا بتا دیا اس شان سے شہیدوں نے ذکر کربلا کو مدرسہ بنا دیا اس شان سے شہیدوں نے ہونے وفا دیا شیریں شہر سے بھی کہیں راہ قاسم نے کربلا میں جہاں کو بتا دیا قاسم نے کربلا میں جہاں کو بتا دیا پانی پیا تو چلو میں لیکن پیا سغت نے گویا نہر کو پانی پلا دیا سغت نے گویا نہر کو حاصل کلام میں پانی پلا دیا چہلم پہ زائروں کے سمندر سے پوچھئے چہلم میں زائروں کے سمندر سے پوچھئے کس نے چراغ خانہ باطل بجھا دیا کس نے چراغ خانہ پروانہ نجات شفا بن گیا پروانہ نجات شفا بن گیا سرور نے کاوشوں کا میری سے شہیدوں نے خون وفا دیا، ایمان کو یقین کے حد سے ملا دیا۔ سورہ فاتحہ۔
اور محمد وآل محمد صلوات۔
مومنو شاہ خراساں کا عجب ماتم ہے، مومنو شاہ خراساں کا عجب ماتم ہے، بے دیار ایسا شہیدوں میں نہایت کم ہے، غم شبیر سے ہم مرتبہ ان کا غم ہے، دونوں مظلوم ہیں پر فرق یہ باہم ہے، مومنو شاہ خراساں کا عجب ہائے کربلا میں ہوئے وہ ذبح وطن سے جا کر، یہ عجم میں ہوئے مقتول عرب سے آ کر، یہ عجم میں ہوئے مقتول عرب سے آ کر، دونوں مظلوموں کی روتی ہے برابر زہرا، یوں بیاں کرتی ہے ایک زائرہ برے رضا، لے گیا روزے پر نور جب باغ رسا، رات کو عالم رویا میں یہ میں نے، ارے بی بی ایک روزے میں پیٹ کے چلاتی ہے کہ لحد شاہ خراساں کی لرز جاتی، کہ لحد شاہ خراساں کی لرز جاتی، عزیز و شاہ خراساں کی کیا فضیلت ہے، ثواب حج سے سوا قبر کی زیارت ہے، طواف روضہ میں خود بوستان جنت ہے، ہر ایک در سے ہوئے دا خدا کی رحمت ہے، ہر ایک در سے ہوئے دا خدا کی رحمت ہے، وہ روضہ عرش صفت ہے زمین پر، مگر زمین ہے روضے کی عرش اولا پر، مگر زمین ہے روضے کی عرش اعلی پر، نثار غربت سامن پہ ہوئے شیعوں کی جان، کہ جس کو روتی ہے روح رسول ہر دو جہاں، سنو وقار حسینو رضا کمو سے بیاں، کہ روز حشر کا جب آفتاب ہوگا عیاں، کہ روز حشر حشر کا جب آفتاب ہو قرار ہوش وہ خورشید سب کے کھوئے گا تمام حشر کا بازار گرم ہوئے گا تمام حشر کا بازار گرم ہوئے گا خدا کے عرش سے آئے گی اس گھڑی یہ سب بتاؤ آج کوئی بادشاہ ہے مجھ سا کہیں گے متفق الفاظ سب نہیں حقا تو پھر یہ عرش سے آواز ہوئے گی پیدا تو پھر یہ عرش سے آواز ہوئے گی فرشت و فاطمہ کا نور جین کے جا ہے شفیع حشر ہمارا حسین کے جا ہے شفیع حشر ہمارا حسین کے جا ہے کہو یہ روح امی سے کہ جلد جاؤ تم لحظ سے سید مظلوم کو اٹھاؤ تم ہمارے فضیہ کو جبریل جلد لاؤ تم خدا کے سمت سے شبیر کو سناؤ تم خدا کی سمت سے شبیر کو سناؤ جو ہم سے مانگے گا تو اے شہ خدا دیں گے ہمیں حسین تیرا آج خون بہا دیں گے ہمیں حسین تیرا آج خون بہا خدا کا حکم بجا لائے گا امین خدا پھر ایک ہماری یہ نورانی آئے گی اس جا ارے جلوم میں کھولے ہوئے سر کو مریم ہو ہوا نشان نور سرے در ہوں گے جلوہ نما نشان نور سرے در ہوں گے جلوہ نما فغا میں ہوئے گی محمل نشیں برات حسین صدا ہماری سے آئے گی ہائے ہائے حسین صدا ہماری سے آئے گی ہائے ہائے حسین سناؤں آمد مظلوم کربلا کا بیان کفن حسین کا اس وقت ہوگا خون فشا لگے لگائے ہوئے لاش اصغرے اور ایک ہاتھ پہ سر کو دھرے وہ شاہ زمان اور ایک ہاتھ پہ سر کو دھرے وہ ارے کمر کو تھام کے عباس کو وہ روئے گا زبان پاک پہ اکبر کا نام ہوئے گا زبان پاک پہ اکبر کا نام ہو نہ ختم ہوگی ابھی یہ حسین کی نمود امام رضا ہوں گے حشر میں ایک بار ندا یہ دے گا ہر ایک سو وہ قبلہ ابرار کے تھام لے میرے دامن کو سب میرے زوار کے تھام لے میرے دامن کو سب میرے شفیع काफी अपने मुहिब्बों का आज होता है हुसैन शाह मैशर का मैं भी पोता हूँ हुसैन शाह मैशर का मैं भी पोता निदा ये सुन के रहेगा हुसैन को ना करार बज़ेर अर्श चले आएंगे शहे अबरार कहेंगे हक से कि मैं तेरी परवरिश पे इलाही मुझको नहीं अब नखूं बहा दरकार इलाही मुझको नहीं अब तू बख्शो उम्मते जद को उम्मीदवारों में करूं जो खून का दावा गुनाहगार आखिरी बंद किसे करूं जो खून का दावा गुनाहगार मेरा भी दफनो कफन था मुहाल है तकीन अज रहे एजाज आके दफना रजा से पीट के सर को कहेंगी तब जहरा ये वाकई के सफर में तो बेकसी से हुआ ये वाकया के सफर में तो बेकसी से हुआ अरे नहीं मैं आने लहा तेरे गम से सोई हूँ तेरे मजार पे 40 दिन में रोई हूँ तेरे मजार पे 40 में रोई हूँ मोमिनो शाहे
और मोहम्मद वाले मोहम्मद सल्लल्लाहु हरे दिगर नारे सल्लल्लाहु मरबीब खुदा ख़त्मुल अंबिया इमाम ज़माना बुलंद तर सल्लल्लाहु
A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Brothers and sisters, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Before I invite Syed Bilal Rizvi up to the minbar to address tonight's majlis, I will keep it brief, just a few announcements. First, let us recognize the sponsors for tonight's majlis. They are Mir Hussain and Mrs. Tahira Ali, Dr. Fatima Ali, and also Brother Haider Ali. For their marhumeen, for your marhumeen, and for those that have no one to recite for them, Surah Fatiha. There is also a request for Surah Fatiha for Marhum Mir Ahmad Ali Bakri, for Marhuma Tahira Begum, Marhum Mir Haider Ali Bakri, Marhuma Abbasi Begum, and Safdar Ali Bakri for them as well. Surah Fatiha. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to increase the amal of the sponsors and to increase the ranks of the marhum in the hereafter. First announcement, again to keep it very brief, the Arba'in series, as you know, will go until Sunday. Saturday, the majlises will all start after Namaz-e-Maghribain, except for the one on Sunday, which will be after Namaz-e-Zohrain. So, inshallah, we look forward to seeing you at the Jailun Majlis for Imam Hussain. Second, the blood drive that is happening August 24th. All the available slots are now filled. So from what I understand, there will be no walk-ins that will be accepted, but if you need any further information, please contact Dr. Mustafa Jafri and he will give you details. Al-Mehdi workshops for Arba'in will be Friday and Saturday, and those workshops are for the kids that are under age 12, and they will be Friday and Saturday again at 8:45 p.m. From 8:45 p.m. after Namaz-e-Maghribain until the end of the lecture. Those that have special needs children, there is a workshop for special needs children, and that is going to be on Saturday. The registration is required for that workshop, and for those that need information, you can contact Dr. Mustafa Jafri. There's a few programs in September. I'm going to go through it very quickly. September 1st and through September 3rd, Wafat of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad, and also Wafat of Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba alayhi salam, which will be recited by Syed Sulaiman Abadi, September 14th and 15th. Mizan Institute will be holding a workshop at Masjid-e-Ali. The title of that workshop is The Hour, Resurrection Day, Part 1, which is based on the works of Allama Tabatabai and taught by Sheikh Amir Rastani. The 21st, we will have Prophet Day in honor of our Holy Prophet Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi wa sallam. So inshallah, we look forward to seeing you in those programs as well. And with that, it is my honor to invite Syed Bilal Rizvi up to the minbar to address tonight's majlis. Please welcome him with salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Baradigar nare salawat. And my dear brothers that are sitting in the middle, if you can just kindly come up, there's this big open space here. Thoda sa aage aa jaiye. If you come up, then it'll be a nice mahal for the majlis. And as you come up, one more salawat. Ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
Rahimallah. Rahimallahu man qara'a surat al-Fatiha. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Maliki yawm al-Din. Iyyaka as-sirat al-mustaqim. Sirat alladhina an'amta alayhim. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله والصلاة والسلام على إمام القبلتين ونبي الحرمين وأفضل الثقلين وجد الحسن والحسين الذي سمي في السماء بأحمد وفي الأرض بأبي القاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الصادقين والذين ذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا اللهم صل وسلم وزد وبارك على صاحب الدعوة النبوية والسولة الحيدرية والإسمة الفاطمية والحلم الحسنية والشجاعة الحسينية والعبادة السجادية والمآثر الباقرية والآثار الجعفرية والعلوم الكاذمية والحجج الردبية والجود التقوية والنقاوة النقبية والهيبة العسكرية والغيبة الإلهية اللهم عجل فرجه وسهل مخرجه أما بعد فقد كان يقول الإمام موسى بن جعفر الكاظم لبنيه هذا أخوكم علي بن موسى عالم آل محمد فاسألوه عن أديانكم واحفظوا ما يقول لكم فإني سمعت أبي جعفر بن محمد عليهما السلام غير مرة يقول لي إن عالم آل محمد لفي صلبك وليتني أدركته فإنه سمي أمير المؤمنين علي صلوا على محمد وآل محمد For the love of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. To give the Imam of our time our condolences as we approach the Arba'een of his grandfather, one more salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And to give him our condolences once more upon this night when we remember the shahada of his grandfather, Imam Ali ibn Musa al-Ridha. A louder salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Amongst the titles of Imam Ali ibn Musa al-Ridha found within the narrations is the title of him being called the Alim of Ali Muhammad, or the scholar from the progeny of Rasulullah. When we examine the narrations, we find that this title has been used exclusively for Imam Ali ibn Musa al-Ridha. You know, it goes without saying that the value and the virtue of knowledge in the life of mankind is something which can't be understated, to the extent that when we reflect upon what life is in and of itself, and I asked you the question, what is life? You find that life is the coupling of two attributes. The first attribute is qudra and ability, and the second attribute is ilm and knowledge. You know what this entails is that when you look in the Quran and the Hadith, oftentimes the Quran and the Hadith, they convey this idea is that a person who is truly alive is not just an individual who is alive in the biological or medical sense of life, but rather a person with knowledge of understanding, a person who is submitted to the truth is alive in the eyes of Allah. And in this regard, there is a verse of the Quran that demonstrates this idea. This verse is Surah Al-Anfal, chapter 8, verse 24. Within this verse, Allah describes the invitation of Rasulullah to the religion in a very interesting manner. Over there, Allah, He says, Ya ayyuhalladina amanu, that, O you who believe, istajibu lillahi walir rasul, that reply to the call of Allah and His Messenger, إِذَا دَعَاكُمْ لِمَا يُحْيِيكُمْ, when they invite you to that which gives you life. In other words, that which Rasulullah and Allah are calling mankind towards is something which enlivens them. And over here, the question that arises is that naturally we know that when Rasulullah would preach, he's not standing in a graveyard preaching to a grave, but rather those individuals that Rasulullah would invite to Islam, those individuals, they were breathing, they were walking, they were living in our understanding. Yet the Quran over here says those individuals, they had not reached the status of life by accepting the message of Rasulullah. You know, what this goes to show is that life is seen as that source through which understanding comes. An individual who accepts the message of Allah, who accepts the message of Tawheed, which cannot be done without knowledge, that individual who does that is alive, and that person who stays away from that in reality is dead. And that's why Amir al-Mu'mineen in a narration, he would say, Bil-ilm takunul hayat, that with knowledge, life comes. On one side, the Imam says this, but at the same time, when you go to Nahjul Balagha, Amir al-Mu'mineen describes in Sermon 87 of Nahjul Balagha what the quality of a person who is dead is. And over there, he doesn't say that his heart, it stops beating, or his blood is not pumping, but rather the description he gives of an individual who is ignorant, an individual without knowledge, and an individual who misguides others. He says in that sermon, وَآخَرُ قَدْ تَسَمَّ عَالِمًا وَلَيْسَ بِهِ. There is another group of individuals, they say that they are learned, that they are called learned, but in reality, they are not learned. And then after that, when it says this line, he says, فَاقْتَبَسَ الْجَهَائِلَ مِنْ جُهَالٍ وَضَلَائِلَ مِنْ ضُلَّالٍ. These individuals, they take scraps of ignorance from those people who are ignorant. And they take misguidance from those who are misguided. In other words, they only take negative qualities from negative individuals. وَنَسَبَ لِلنَّاسِ أَشْرَاكًا. And they have set up traps for people. And these traps, how have they set them up? They have set them up in a manner that by deceiving them, by quoting false reports, they misguide those individuals. So the Imam, he gives this this description, but at the end, after describing this group, he says, فَالصُّورَةُ صُورَةِ إِنسَانٍ. These people, in their image, they look like human beings. They look like you and I. وَالْقَلْبُ قَلْبُ حَيْوَانٍ. But rather, their hearts are like the hearts of animals. لَا يَعْرِفُ بَابَ الْهُدَى فَيَتَّبِعَهُ. They don't recognize guidance to follow it. وَلَا بَابَ الْعَمَى فَيَصُدَّ عَنْهُ. Nor do they recognize blindness. They don't know what is good for them. They don't know what is bad for them. And then the Imam, he describes them by saying, فَذَلِكَ مَيَّةُ الْأَحْيَاء. That they are the living dead. You see, this concept that Amir al-Mu'mineen mentions is that there are many people within this world who are alive, but they are not living in the truest sense. And he says those individuals who don't have knowledge, those individuals are those who are dead in reality. But then after that, Amir al-Mu'mineen, he goes to the next portion. And in the next portion, he contrasts those people with Ali Muhammad. And when he describes Ali Muhammad in the next portion, he says that these are those individuals who are the signs of Allah. And they are those pillars of guidance which have been erected by Allah. And then after that, he says to the people, وَكَيْفَ تَعْمَهُونَ وَبَيْنَكُمْ إِثْرَةُ نَبِيِّكُمْ. That how is it possible that you are in blindness when you have the progeny of Rasulullah in front of you? And he says, فَأَنزِلُوهُمْ بِأَحْسَنِ مَنَازِلِ الْقُرْآنِ. That give them the position that you give the Quran in the best of manners. وَرِدُوهُمْ وُرُودَ هِيمَ الْإِتَاشِ. And when you come to Ahlul Bayt, when you come to the progeny of Rasulullah, come to them in the way a thirsty camel goes towards a watering spot. In that manner, go towards them. And then the Imam, he says to the people, وَخُذُوا أَنْ خَاتِمِ النَّبِيِّينَ. Take this line, remember this line of Rasulullah. وَمَنْ مَاتَ. That whoever amongst us dies is not in reality dead. You find over here within this line, Amir al-Mu'mineen, he contrasts those who are dead in ignorance to those who are alive in knowledge. And those who are alive in knowledge in reality are Ahlul Bayt. And from amongst those springs of life known as Muhammad and Ali Muhammad, there is one spring that was called Ali ibn Musa al-Ridha. You see, this Imam is that Imam who was called the Alim of Ali Muhammad. And indeed tonight, the subject of analysis is to examine the biography of this Imam in the context of this title. And we'll do so in the following stages. Number one, in what historical context did Imam al-Ridha live and whom was the mother of the Imam? Number two, what are the other titles, al-Qab of Imam al-Ridha? Number three, who called Imam al-Ridha the scholar of Ali Muhammad and why was this title given to him? Number four, in what ways did he clear misconceptions amongst the Muslims with this title? Number five, in what ways did he use his knowledge against non-Muslims and what does this tell us about the concept of religious pluralism? And number six, in what ways has the ziyarah of Imam Ali ibn Musa al-Ridha been emphasized? And based upon these 6 points, we'll analyze the life and this title of the Imam. Now, when it comes to Imam Ali ibn Musa al-Ridha, we find that the Imam, he was born either in the 148th year after Hijrah or the 153rd year after Hijrah. And he is martyred on the 17th of Safar in the 203rd year after Hijrah. Based upon these two dates, this means that either he was 50 or he was 55. The period of his imamate, 20 years. Based on the dates, either he lived with his father for 30 years or 35 years, and on all accounts, he was born after the shahadat of Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq. Now, when you look at the historical times within which the Imam lives, you find that either the first 5 or 10 years of his life are spent under the Abbasid Caliph al-Mansur. After that, 11 years are spent under al-Mahdi al-Abbasi. 1 year is spent under Hadi al-Abbasi. 23 years are spent under Harun al-Rashid. 5 years under Amin al-Rashid. And the final 5 years of the Imam are spent under the rule of Ma'mun al-Rashid. And based on that, you find that the first 47 or 52 years of the Imam, based on the date of birth, was spent in Medina, and the final 3 years are spent in Khurasan. Now, within this context, of course, we know whom the mother of the Imam is, but the father of the Imam is. But the question is that who is the mother of Imam Ali ibn Musa al-Ridha? Over here we find that the narrations, they differ about the name of the mother of the Imam. For example, Shaykh al-Mufid in Kitab al-Irshad, he says the name of the mother of the Imam was Najma. When you go to Bihar al-Anwar, there is a narration that says her name is Arwa. But amongst the earliest of these sources in Al-Kafi as well as in other places, the name which is mentioned for the mother of Imam al-Ridha is the name Tuqtam. You find that there are two possibilities to who this Tuqtam was. The first possibility is that she was gifted to Imam al-Qadim, by whom the wife of Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq, the lady Hamida. You know, Hamida, the wife of Imam al-Sadiq, Imam al-Baqir has a narration about her where he says, Hiya hamidatun fid dunya, that within this world she is Hamida wa mahmuda fil akhirah, and in the hereafter she is the one who is praised. And in this regard, you find it stated that this Hamida, she gives this gift, this slave girl, as a gift towards the Imam, and Imam Musa al-Qadim marries this slave girl. When she gives her as a gift to Imam al-Qadim to marry, she says that I saw Rasulullah within my dream. And Rasulullah said that she will give birth to the best of creation. And she says, Ya Bunayya, O my son, Inna Tuqtam, this Tuqtam, Ma ra'aytu qat jariya aftal minha, that I have not seen a slave girl who is better than her. So you find this is one possibility as to whom the mother of the Imam was. Now, there is a second narration as well. You know, what we know about her is that she is from the region of Barbar, from the region of Maghrib, in that area. Another narration says that Imam al-Qadim, he goes with a companion, and he knows that there is a slave trader who came. And when he comes, the Imam says that, what slave girls have you brought? He brings out several slave girls. The Imam says, no, is there anyone else? He says, there is one more, but I will not give her towards you. The Imam, he leaves according to this narration. He sends his companion, and he says to his companion that go and give whatever price to get that slave girl. When he goes back, he says, oh man, I will pay you whatever it takes. The man, he finally agrees. He says that I will give her towards you. But this woman, when we look at her, we have seen nothing but virtue. And the person she must go to must be a virtuous individual. So you find in this context, Imam al-Ridha is brought up with a mother like this, and of course his father, Imam Musa al-Qadim. When we look in the narrations additionally, you find that there are many narrations which give various titles for Imam Ali ibn Musa al-Ridha. You know, there are certain titles of the A'imma which the Shia, they would give the Imams. And without a doubt, they have a level of truth behind them. For example, when many people, they would go to Qadmain and their du'as would be accepted at the grave of Imam Musa al-Qadim, many Shia, they would say Imam al-Qadim is Babul Murad, that he is that door from where one's desires are fulfilled. But you find this title is not within the hadith. Yes, the idea of shafa'ah from the grave of Imam al-Kadhim without a doubt is within the narration, but this title itself is not within the narrations. But then there are certain titles of the A'immah which are found within the hadith. And in regards to Imam al-Ridha, there are many titles which he has been given by the Shia, and there are many titles found in the narrations. Because amongst the latter Imams, Imam al-Ridha had a great amount of popularity. And one of the evidences for this is that before Imam al-Ridha and himself, people would call the Imams by saying, Yabna Rasulullah, that, O son of Rasulullah. But after Imam al-Ridha, many of the Imams would be called Yabna al-Ridha, not Yabna Rasulullah. That they would say that you are the son of Ali ibn Musa al-Ridha. And you find this shows that the Imam was an individual who had a great amount of popularity. But when we come to the narrations, we find that one of the titles of the Imams which is found in a hadith of Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. You know, Rasulullah forecasted the martyrdom of Imam Ali ibn Musa al-Ridha. And this is something which is phenomenal to think about. You know, it's one thing for him to mention the martyrdom of Imam al-Hussein. Imam al-Hussein is alive within that time period. But between the death of Rasulullah and Imam al-Ridha, there's approximately 200 years in between. And Rasulullah, he would say in a famous narration, Satudfanu bad'atun minni bi Khurasan, that a part of me will be buried in Khurasan. Ma zaraha makrubun illa wa nafasallahu karba. No person who is distressed will go and do a ziyarah except for that distress will be taken away from Allah. Wala mudnibun illa wa ghafarallahu lahu dunuba. Nor is there any sinner who will go towards his grave except that Allah forgives the sins of that individual. You know, you might be surprised to know that after Rasulullah, Amir al-Mu'mineen and Imam al-Hussein, the most amount of narrations we have in terms of quantity and emphasis is about the ziyarah of Imam Ali ibn Musa al-Ridha. You know, in Wasail al-Shia, there is a separate chapter for the virtues of the ziyarah of Imam Ali ibn Musa al-Ridha. And Al-Hurr al-Amili, over there, he mentions 28 different narrations about the fadail and the virtues of the ziyarah of Imam Ali ibn Musa al-Ridha. And there are certain narrations that even give precedence to the ziyarah of Imam al-Ridha over the ziyarah of Imam al-Hussein. Now some, they may be shocked to hear. The ziyarah of Imam al-Hussein is a symbol of our faith. Now over here, there are two schools of thought. One said yes, that it is preferred in every time period. But there were other scholars, when they looked at these narrations, they said that it was for a period of time. Because when you look at Imam Ali ibn Musa al-Ridha, this is that Imam who has been called Gharibul Ghuraba. The word Gharib means that he is alone. That when you look at all of the other graves of the A'immah alayhimus salam, you find that they're much closer than the grave of Imam al-Ridha to other members of Ahlul Bayt. That when you go to Jannatul Baqi, multiple A'immah are in Jannatul Baqi. When you go to Najaf, by Amir al-Mu'mineen is Adam and Nuh, these prophets of Allah. When you go to Karbala, Imam al-Hussein, Aba Fadl Abbas. When you go to Samara, you find multiple Imams, Imam al-Askari, Imam Ali al-Naqi. But when you go to Qadmain, same thing, Imam al-Jawad, Imam al-Qadim. But then you find that there is one lonely grave in Khurasan. And that grave is the grave of Imam Ali ibn Musa al-Ridha. So when that reality happened, Ahlul Bayt emphasized that don't neglect the ziyarat of Ali ibn Musa al-Ridha. Because this is that ziyarah. You know, one narration says when it comes to the other A'immah, yazuruhum khassatan wa amma. That the general And the close ones, those who have true ma'rifah, they would go and do their ziyarah. There are many who go to the ziyarah of Amir al-Mu'mineen, of Imam, of the other ai But when it comes to the ziyarah of Imam Ali ibn Musa al-Ridha, it says, لا يزورك إلا الخواص من الشيعة. That there is a selected group. And according to some, what this meant is the one who went to the 8th Imam, they would go and believe in the 12th Imam, according to one understanding of this tradition. So you find this is in the context of the ziyarah. So Rasulullah, he says, that a part of me will be buried in Khurasan. You know, in this regard, Imam al-Ridha, he is similar to Fatima al-Zahra in what sense? That Fatima al-Zahra salamullahi alayha was called Bad'atu Rasulullah, that she was called a part of Rasulullah. And over here, the same title is being used for Imam Ali ibn Musa al-Ridha. You know, a part is something which represents the qualities of the whole. And that's why those qualities in Rasulullah are seen within the Imam. So you find this is one title of the Imam. A second title of the Imam that we find within the narrations is that he was called Imam al-Ra'uf, the Imam of kindness. Somebody who was soft when he would interact with others. You know, in the final 3 years of his life, Imam al-Ridha was forced to take the position of heir apparency to Ma'mun. When he takes that position, one of the things that the Imam would do is that the Imam would distance himself from the culture of the courtroom. Because when you're a king, when you're in a place of aristocracy, there's a particular culture. And Imam al-Ridha would show that even though I am forced to be here, I am not one of them. In this manner, for example, you know, kings in that time, they would have private baths and areas to clean themselves within their homes. And then there were other individuals who would go to the public bath. And Imam al-Ridha, even at that time, he would go to the public bath. When he goes to the public area, a man, he comes up and he says that, wash my back. Imam al-Ridha begins to wash the back of that individual. At that moment, people are shocked. They said, do you not know what you just did? This is the grandson of Rasulullah, the heir apparent of Ma'mun. The moment that man says that, Imam al-Ridha, he says that it is an act of worship to serve the creation of Allah. You find this is Ali ibn Musa al-Ridha. You know, if Islam spread in time periods like that, Islam spread because of the akhlaq of Ahlul Bayt. And it spread because of the ilm of Ahlul Bayt. You know, in another occasion, there was an individual from Khurasan. He comes to the Imam. And when he comes to the Imam, he says that, Yabna Rasulullah, I am not a poor individual, but I'm on a journey and I don't have any money. I need money enough so I can go back. You know, because I'm well off, I can't take sadaqah. But at the same time, my money isn't with me, so I need to go. What Imam al-Ridha does is that he says, oh man, stay here. I will go inside my house. The Imam goes in his house. He comes out. And without opening the door, he sticks his hand out over the door and he gives that man an amount of money. You know, other individuals, they're watching. They say that, oh, Yabna Rasulullah, why did you not open the door? You know, he says at that moment, this man, he comes from a good family. He comes from a wealthy background. I didn't want to embarrass him by him looking at my face as I gave towards him. You know, you and I, when we give someone sadaqah, oftentimes it's as if we're giving the greatest favor in the world to that individual. And we hold it over their head. But you know, there is an ayat of the Quran which describes how powerful giving charity is. You know, that verse of the Quran, it says, وَأَنْفِقُوا مِمَّا رَزَقْنَاكُمْ, that give from that which we have provided you. مِنْ قَبْلِ أَنْ يَأْتِيَ أَحَدُكُمُ الْمَوْتِ, before death comes, give from what we have provided you. And if you don't do that, the Quran shows the consequence. It says on the day of judgment, if you don't do this, فَيَقُولُ رَبِّي, that, oh, you'll say that on the day of judgment, لَوْلَا أَخَّرْتَنِي إِلَىٰ أَجَلٍ قَرِيبٍ, that, oh Allah, why don't you send me back to the world for a small amount of time? And you know why they'll want to go back to the world? It says, فَأَصَدَّقْ وَأَكُنْ مِنَ الصَّالِحِينَ, so that we can give sadaqah and we can be amongst those who are salih and who are righteous. So you find this type of regret, the Quran doesn't mention it for salat, but it mentions it for sadaqah within this ayat. So you find in this regard, Imam al-Ridha, he demonstrates this in his seerah and he demonstrates this in his character as Imam al-Ra'uf. The final of the titles that I'll examine before coming to the title, which is the subject of tonight's analysis, is that he was called al-Ridha. You know, the question is that where did this title of al-Ridha, the one who is pleased, the one who is a source of pleasure, come from? You know, there is a very famous narrator from the Imams by the name of Abu Nasr al-Bazanti. And it stated Abu Nasr al-Bazanti, he goes to the Imam and he says that the people, they say that this title was given to Ali ibn Musa al-Ridha. He goes to Imam al-Jawad and he says this title was given to your father by Ma'mun. That Ma'mun called him al-Ridha when he made him the heir apparent. At that point, the Imam, he replied by saying, Kadabu wallah, that by Allah, these individuals are lying. Wafajaru, and they are transgressing. The reason he is called Ar-Ridha is because Allah is pleased with them in the heavens. And upon this earth, Rasulullah and the other Imams are pleased with them. At that point, Abu Nasr al-Bazanti, he says, isn't it the case that Allah is pleased with all of the A'immah? Then why is this title being given specifically for Ali ibn Musa al-Ridha? The Imam replies by saying, this is the one whom even his enemies were pleased with. You know, others, they had enemies who tried to do everything to stop him. But the Jalal of Ali ibn Musa al-Ridha was something which was unique. And amongst the reasons for that uniqueness was the knowledge of the Imam. You know, this narration which I quoted at the beginning of the lecture, that Imam al-Qadim, he says to his children, that this is your brother Ali ibn Musa. Preserve what he says to you and ask him about your religion. For I heard my father Ja'far as-Sadiq, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi. Listen to this next line. He says, I heard my father Ja'far as-Sadiq on multiple occasions, غَيْرَ مَرَّةٍ, more than one time say that the alim of Ali Muhammad is within your lineage. And how I wish that I will see him. You see, this line is being given by Ja'far as-Sadiq. When we think of ilm and knowledge within our madhab as a school of thought, the name which comes to our mind is the name of Imam as-Sadiq. But over here, Imam as-Sadiq is saying, I wish that I was alive to see the alim of Ali Muhammad. So the question is, why this title to Imam al-Ridha? Why not to Amir al-Mu'mineen? Why not to Imam al-Baqir? Why not to Imam as-Sadiq? You know, one level of this, without a doubt, is that in terms of qualities, Ahlul Bayt, they had qualities that mirrored one another. That all of them were patient, all of them were knowledgeable, all of them were forbearant, but the circumstances brought out certain qualities. You know, in the same regard, when you look at the Anbiya, you find the Anbiya, their miracles were according to that time period. That in the time of Musa, magic reigned supreme. Musa, he goes, his staff turns into a snake, and the first to acknowledge were the magicians. Because the magicians, they know what this man is doing is different from what we're doing. We're doing deception, but what he has is an actual miracle. And at that point, they say, Amanna bi Rabbi Haruna wa Musa. That we believe in the Lord of Musa and the Lord of Harun. You know, they could have just said, we believe in the Lord of Musa. But you find even the Quran shows that the wasi of the Prophet needs to be acknowledged when you're testifying to faith. So you find that in that manner, that miracle was according to the time period. When we look at Imam al-Ridha, it was a very unique time period. And that time period was this, is that when you look in Amir al-Mu'mineen's time, the first stage of the development of the knowledge of Ahlul Bayt, Amir al-Mu'mineen gives a foundation. Then after that, in the time period of Imam al-Baqir and Imam al-Sadiq, you find that as a madhab, as a school of thought, things begin to be systemized. But then after that, in the time of Imam al-Ridha, because of his position, there were many misconceptions that the Imam was able to clear. You know, for example, the first thing that the Imam needed to clear was that there were a group of individuals who would doubt the imamat of the Imam. That when Imam al-Qadim passes away, there were a group of individuals, because they would collect the khums, they said that we want to keep this money and we are not going to give allegiance to Imam Ali ibn Musa al-Ridha, and that's what they stood by. So you know what they said? They said, "Oh Ali ibn Musa al-Ridha," in one narration, "what is the sign of you being an Imam? You have been given this authority by Allah. Why don't you go to Harun al-Rashid? You say who you are, and you see what Harun al-Rashid does to you." You know what the Imam, he says? He says that I will say what Rasulullah said. They said, "What do you mean what Rasulullah said?" Rasulullah, he said, that if Abu Lahab harms me, then I am not a prophet of Allah. That is the first sign of my prophethood. I am saying that if Harun al-Rashid harms me, then I am not an Imam. And without a doubt, this prophecy, it proved to be true. That Imam al-Ridha for 23 years lives under an individual who was responsible for the martyrdom of Imam al-Qadim. But in that time period, he doesn't martyr Imam Ali ibn Musa al-Ridha. You see, these predictions and prophecies is one of the ways that we know Ahlul Bayt and the Quran are true. You know, for example, the Quran says, "Tabbat yada abi lahabin wa tab," that may Abu Lahab and the two hands of Abu Lahab perish. You know, all Abu Lahab had to do was go and say, "La ilaha illallah," the Quran would be finished. But when the Quran says this line, it shows that when we speak, it is from revelation. And in the same way, when the Imams, they would make these predictions, such as Imam Ali ibn Musa al-Ridha, it shows that our source is inspiration as well. And in that manner, Imam al-Ridha, he says this. Then he says after that what other concerns do you have? They say that an Imam should be buried by an Imam. Imam al-Ridha, he says that Zainul Abidin buried his father. When Zainul Abidin was in the prison of Ibn Ziyad, he came to bury his father. In the same way, I went from Medina and I went and I buried my father, Musa al-Qadim. So you find the first test of the knowledge of the Imam was towards his own Shia, that he established his imamat in this occasion. But after that, you find that there were many misconceptions that were rampant within the Muslim world, and some of them continue until today. For example, there's a narration amongst other schools of thought that إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَنزِلُ كُلَّ لَيْلَةِ الْجُمْعَةِ إِلَى سَمَاءِ الْأَرْضِ, that every Friday night, Allah comes down to the sky of the earth. And over there, Allah, he says, هَلْ مِن تَائِبٍ فَأَتُوبُ عَلَيْهِ, that is there anyone who is doing tawbah so I can accept his tawbah, and is there anyone who wants repentance so I can forgive his sins? You know, they come to Imam al-Ridha and they say that, is this a narration that Allah comes from the ash to the sky of the earth and he says this? The Imam says that no, this is not a narration, but rather the narrator made a mistake. You know, this line is phenomenal. There are millions and millions of people who believe in this narration even today. But you find that Imam al-Ridha, he shows what the source is. He says that the actual hadith is that inna lillahi malakan, that Allah has an angel, that on Friday night that angel comes down and it says that, is there any repenter for Allah to accept the repentance? So you find this is something which is cleared by Imam Ali ibn Musa al-Ridha through his knowledge. Now after that, you find this is one arena. Another arena where we see the knowledge of the Imam is in regards to those who are non-Muslims. You know, the Imam, he is forced to go to Medina towards Khurasan. And when he's forced to go from Medina to Khurasan, it was a very painful experience for Imam al-Ridha. You know, there's a narrator by the name of Muhabil al-Sijistani. He says that when Imam al-Ridha was forced to leave Medina, what he would do is that he would walk to the grave of Rasulullah and he would walk away from the grave of Rasulullah. Then again, he would go to the grave of Rasulullah and he would walk away. He says, as he was doing this, I said to him that Ma'mun has called you. This is an occasion of happiness. Why are you sorrowful? He says, it is because I will never return to Medina. And in this manner, the Imam is taken from there to Khurasan through a route which goes through Nishapur. You know, a majlis about Imam al-Ridha is not complete unless we narrate this incident in Nishapur. That within Nishapur it stated that 24,000 individuals, according to some sources, other sources mention other numbers, that when they heard that the grandson of Rasulullah is coming, many of them, they come out. They gather in front of the camel of the Imam. And when they gather over there, it stated that there were individuals who had pen and paper in front of them. And remember this line, pen and paper. And they say that, oh, Yabna Rasulullah, can you give us a narration? So Imam al-Ridha, he opens the curtain on the veils of the camel. And he says that I heard from my father Musa al-Kadhim, who heard from his father Ja'far al-Sadiq, who heard from his father Muhammad al-Baqir, who heard from his father Zainul Abidin, who heard from his father Hussein, who heard from his brother Hassan, who heard from Ali ibn Abi Talib, who heard from Rasulullah that Jibreel came down upon me, and Jibreel narrates from Allah, La ilaha illallah hisni faman dakhala hisni amina min adabi. That La ilaha illallah is my fortress. The one who enters the fortress is saved from my adab. You know, at that moment, there must have been many individuals who think that La ilaha illallah, that's it, that's all we need. Imam al-Ridha, he opens the curtain and he says, وَلَكِنْ بِالشَّرْطِهَا or وَلَكِنْ بِالشُّرُوطِهَا, with it has conditions. And I am one of the conditions of La ilaha illallah. You know, on that day, there was many individuals who brought a pen and paper with them. In the history of Islam, there was a day where Rasulullah asked for pen and paper. And on that day, they denied Rasulullah. Over here, the one who is speaking is Ali. And the one who is Ali, he says that I am one of the conditions of La ilaha illallah. In other words, there are certain ulama who say that Imam al-Ridha was hinting that what was it that Rasulullah wanted to write upon his deathbed. And what Rasulullah wanted to write is that Ali is the condition of La ilaha illallah. Whether it is Ali ibn Abi Talib or Ali ibn Musa al-Ridha. For when Islam is in danger, it is Ali who comes to the help of Islam. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So you find in this manner, the Imam, he reaches Khurasan. Now when he reaches Khurasan, one of the things which Ma'mun he does is that, you know, Ma'mun, when you look at the Abbasids, they tried to model themselves after the ancient Persian kingdoms, the Sassanids. Because one of the mistakes that Banu Umayyah did is they neglected the Persian bloc of the ruling system. And because of that, that turned against them. So the Abbasids, they would have many symbolism from the old Persian kings. For example, those carpets, other symbolism. You know, one of the ideas of the Sassanids, based in Zoroastrianism, is that all knowledge belonged to Zoroaster. And it was their right to reclaim that knowledge. So you find that the Abbasids, especially under Ma'mun, they would emphasize the translation of texts. There would be different works from Greek which are translated mainly by Christian, Syriac Christians. And you find that this translation, as it's going on, there was an environment of people of different backgrounds. So what Ma'muni does is he gathers some of them. For example, he gathers Ra'sul Jalut, the head rabbi. And he gathers an individual by the name of Jatalik, who was a Christian. He gathers Nistasa Rumi, a Roman physician, and many other individuals. And he says, tomorrow I want you to debate with Ali ibn Musa al-Ridha. You know, the narration, which is recorded in Kitab al-Tawheed by As-Saduq, and it's narrated in Uyun Akhbar al-Ridha, it states that that individual who was told to go and get Imam al-Ridha was an Iraqi by the name of Nofali, who was inclined to the Imam. So Nofali, when he comes to get the Imam for this debate, as the court is set, he's in a state of worry. And the Imam says, why are you worried? He says that, oh, Ali ibn Musa al-Ridha, Ma'mun has invited polemicists. He has not invited scholars. The difference between a scholar and a polemicist, simply a debater, is that a debater tries to twist words, whereas a scholar, when he sees the truth, he recognizes it. You know what the Imam says to Nofali? He says that, are you worried about my knowledge? He says, if you are worried, I want you to look at the face of Ma'mun when I answer the Christians from the Bible, and I answer the Jews from the Torah, and I answer the Persians in Persian, and I answer the Romans in Latin. At that moment, look at the face of Ma'mun. It stated, Imam al-Ridha, he goes into that courtyard. Amongst the first of the people who begin a dialogue with the Imam was Jatalik, the Christian. And Jatalik, he was told by Ma'mun that I want you to discuss with Ali ibn Musa al-Ridha. Jatalik, he says, that how can I discuss with a man who doesn't believe in the same book as me? In other words, there must be a common epistemological source based upon which we can discuss. The Imam says, if I discuss based on your own book, would you accept it? The man says, yes. The Imam, he begins to recite the Injil. The man says, yes, you know the Injil. After that, in their dialogue, the Imam, he says to this Christian individual that, you know, my only issue with your belief is that Jesus had certain shortcomings. The man, he becomes offended. And he says that, what shortcomings did Jesus have? The Imam says Jesus would not pray, nor would he fast as much as a person who is a servant of Allah should. At that point, the man, he stands up and he says, how dare you say that Jesus had shortcomings in prayer and fasting? At that point, Imam al-Ridha, he says that if you say that Jesus prayed and Jesus fasted, whom was he praying to and whom was he fasting for? At that moment, he goes quiet. He says, then why is it that you take him as divine? The man says, because he had miracles. He would bring the dead back to life. Only Allah, only a person who is a deity can do that. The Imam says, have you not read your book where Yeshua, where Elijah brought the dead back to life? And his skill, Ezekiel, brought 35 people back to life. And Moses, a group of people came to Moses and they said, show me your Lord. At that moment, a thunderbolt took them. They came back to life as well. And Ibrahim said, oh my Lord, I want yaqeen. So he cut 4 birds into pieces. He called them. They came back to life. If on this basis you are taking Jesus as God, why don't you take the rest of them as God as well? This man, he recognizes he's no match. After that, Ra'sul Jalut, the head of the rabbis, he stands up. The Imam, he says to him that, why do you not believe in the Anbiya after Musa? He says that Musa had mu'jizat. Musa had a staff which turned into a snake. Musa had a luminous hand. The Imam says Jesus had more mu'jizat. Rasulullah had mu'jizat. The man says, we didn't see their miracles. The Imam says, did you see the miracles of Musa? if on that argument that you didn't see their miracles, you weren't alive in the time period of Musa as well. You know, what this dialogue shows is that the Imam would go and he would establish the truth of Islam. And you know, in today's world, this is a fine point, because there are many individuals who believe in the concept of religious pluralism, or they're called perennialists. And you know what this term means is that there's a group of individuals, many of the Muslims, who ask that as long as a religion is revealed by Allah, what is the issue with a person following them? You know, if there is an individual who is a moral Christian or a moral Jew, he believes in God, but at the same time he doesn't believe in Islam or Rasulullah, what is the problem? You know, the first issue with this is that in reality, this is an attack on the Risala of Rasulullah. And it's an attack on the Risala of Rasulullah in the method that those individuals who hold this belief, they are saying that the messengerhood of Rasulullah is not a condition for salvation. So you find this is one way. And you know, surprisingly, there are ayat of the Quran that they try to use to back up this idea. For example, they'll go to the Quran and they'll use Surah Al-Imran, chapter 3, verse 19. And over there it says, Inna deena indallah al-Islam, that the religion and the sight of Allah is al-Islam. Now you may say that it says Islam, that's pretty clear. What do they mean? They say that, number one, over here Islam is being used as a verb. It is not being used as a proper noun. It means to submit. This is the first thing they say. Then after that, they'll say that it means to submit. So the question is that how do we reply to this? You know, the first reply that we give towards this is that yes, you're right. Without a doubt, Islam means submission. But submission has different forms in every single time period. In the time of Adam, to submit to the deen of Adam is Islam. And in the time of Ibrahim, Isa, to submit to their deen is Islam. But on top of that, when you look at the ayat, it says al-Islam. There is an alif, there is a lam, meaning that there is a proper noun which is being referred to. But at the third level, why don't you say to those individuals that why is it that you never complete the verse? That you say this verse as if it's the total of the verse. But the verse, it continues. It says, Inna deena indallah al-Islam. That indeed the religion in the sight of Allah is al-Islam. وَمَا اخْتَلَفَ الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْكِتَابَ إِلَّا مِن بَعْدِ مَا جَاءَهُمُ الْعِلْمُ. That those people who were given the book, they did not dispute except after knowledge had come to them, بَغْيًا بَيْنَهُمْ, as they would compete with one another. وَمَن يَكْفُرْ بِآيَاتِ اللَّهِ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ سَرِيعُ الْحِسَابِ. That those who deny the signs of Allah, Allah is swift at reckoning. Now listen to the next part. فَإِنْ حَاجُوكَ. That, O Rasulullah, if they argue with you, فَقُلْ أَسْلَمْتُ وَجْهِيَ لِلَّهِ وَمَنِ اتَّبَعَنِي. Rasulullah says to them that if they argue with you, the people of the book, say that I and those who follow me has submitted to Allah. In other words, the Quran is showing that those who hold on to Rasulullah in reality are the ones who have submitted to Allah. And then after that it says, وَقُلْ لِلَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْكِتَابَ وَالْأُمِّيِّينَ. Say to those who are amongst the Makkans and those who have been given the book, أَأَسْلَمْتُمْ. Have you submitted? فَمَنْ أَسْلَمُوا فَقَدْ اهْتَدَوْا. Those who submit, only those are guided. You know, if any path was correct, whether Christianity, Judaism, Rasulullah would not say to the people of the book, have you submitted? Now over here, I'm not talking about individual people, but I'm talking about what is the barometer of truth. And when Imam al-Ridha, he discusses, when the other Imams, they discuss, they are presenting that the barometer of truth is what our grandfather is given. And the barometer of truth is to believe in us, Muhammad and Ali Muhammad. So you find in this manner, Imam al-Ridha, he demonstrates his knowledge in a number of different places. But when we look at the life of Imam Ali ibn Musa al-Ridha, we find that one of the famous encounters of Imam al-Ridha is with a poet by the name of Abu Nu'as. And it's stated that this Abu Nu'as, he was asked that why is it that you never write poetry in the praise of Ali ibn Musa al-Ridha? They say you've written about many different things that poets in that time would write about, but you have never written about the grandson of Rasulullah. You know what Abu Nu'as, he replies by saying? He says, لا أستطيع مدح إمام كان جبريل خادما لأبيه. He says that I am not able to praise that Imam for whom Jibreel was the helper of his father. You know, in this manner, another of the poets that would come to the Imam was the poet by the name of Di'bal al-Khuzai. You know, when Di'bal al-Khuzai, he comes to Imam Ali ibn Musa al-Ridha, he says, "Oh Imam, I've written a qasida, I've written an ode for you." And he recites that famous ode, "Madarisu ayatin khalat min tilabatin, wa manzilu wahyan muqfirul arasati." He says that those homes where the Quran was recited, those homes are empty. وَدِيَارُ عَلِيٍّ وَالْحَمْزَةَ وَالسَّجَّادِ الْتَفَنَاتِ. That he mentions that these houses of Hamza, of Imam Zainul Abidin, these houses of Ahlul Bayt, all of them are empty. And as he goes down, he begins to say, وَقُبُورٌ بِكُوفَان, that there are graves in Kufa. And there is a grave in other areas. As he's reciting these lines, the Imam, he says, "Oh Da'bal, can I give you something which will finish your qasida?" Da'bal, he says, "What do you want to say?" The Imam, he says, "Add this to this qasida, وَقَبْرٌ بِتُوسٍ يَا لَهَا مِن مُصِيبَةٍ." That, oh Da'bal, you forgot to say that there will be a grave in Tus whose musibah and sorrow will be great. You know, Da'bal, he says, whose grave will that be? At that point, Imam al-Ridha, he says, it'll be my grave over there. You know, certain people, certain narrations, they say that Fatima was told about the martyrdom of her brother. And Fatima Ma'suma al-Qum, she would cry when she was told about this. But I say, oh Lady Fatima, you only heard about the martyrdom of your brother. We send our salams upon Zainab, who would stand there on the day of Ashura, وَالشِّمَرَ جَالِسٌ عَلَى صَدْرِ الْحُسَيْنِ, and Shimar would sit on the chest of Imam al-Hussein. You know, Imam al-Ridha, there are many narrations where Imam al-Ridha would remember his grandfather. You know, one of those famous narrations is that Rayhan ibn Shabib, he comes and he says that, "Why are you crying?" The Imam says, "Oh Yabna Shabib, do you not know that it is the day of Ashura?" And he says, "Yabna Shabib, in kunta baqiyan ala shay'in fabki lil Hussein ibn Ali." That, oh son of Shabib, if you ever want to cry over anything, then cry over my grandfather Hussein. فَإِنَّهُ ذُبِحَ كَمَا يُذْبَحُ الْكَبْشِ. For he was slaughtered in the way a sheep is slaughtered. You know, people discuss that why did Imam al-Ridha say this? Because when we slaughter a sheep as Muslims, we give water to the sheep. We give food to the sheep. We make sure that the sword is sharpened. But when Imam al-Hussein was martyred, neither did they give him water. Neither did they give him food. You find the dagger wasn't sharpened either. You know, some they said the reason Imam al-Ridha makes this analogy is that when a sheep is slaughtered, nobody stands and says, "Don't slaughter the sheep." In the same way, on the day of Ashura, when they went to the body of Imam al-Hussein, there was no one to say that this is the grandson of Rasulullah. You know, this is one way in which Imam al-Ridha remembered his grandfather. But another way in which he would remember, it's stated that that point it comes, that Ma'mun, he decides that he'll poison Imam Ali ibn Musa. And in the Imam, before he goes to that gathering, he says to his companion Abul Salt, that, oh Abul Salt, if I come back and my cloak is upon my shoulders, know that nothing has happened to me. But if my cloak is upon my head, then know that I have been poisoned. You know, Imam al-Ridha, he goes, and Ma'mun forces him to eat that poison. You know, it's stated that Imam al-Ridha, as he would return towards his home, which was near that area where Ma'mun had poisoned him, time and time again, Imam al-Ridha would sit on the ground as he's returning towards his house. That after that, you find the body of Ali ibn Musa al-Ridha didn't have the energy to return in that manner. But you know, when he comes towards his house, it's stated that he says that remove the roof from my house and remove the mattress from under me. They say, oh Imam, why do you want to do this? The Imam, he says, for a moment, I want to remember the musibah of my grandfather Hussein, whose body laid on the plains of Karbala. You know, the Imam, he leaves this world. And you know, it's stated this Imam, he had a sister as well who had passed away before Imam al-Ridha. She didn't have to come to the grave of Ali ibn Musa al-Ridha in the way that Sayyida Zainab came on the day of Arba'een. You know, when Sayyida Zainab, she was going towards the land of Karbala after Medina. It's stated that Jabir ibn Abdullah al-Ansari was already in Medina. And by that time, Jabir had become blind. Jabir was with a companion by the name of Atiya al-Jofi. He says that, oh Atiya, take me to the grave of Hussein. That Jabir, he goes to the grave of Imam al-Hussein and he says, oh my beloved, oh Hussein, why is it that I call upon you but you don't reply to me? You know, after that, as Jabir is by the grave of Imam al-Hussein, Atiya, he says, oh Jabir, there is a caravan which is coming. There are black flags in that caravan. Jabir says, oh Atiya, perhaps it is Ibn Ziyad, let us hide. But Atiya says, oh Jabir, it's a caravan of women and children. Jabir says, oh Atiya, is there any men within that caravan? Atiya says that there is one old man over there. Jabir, he goes to that man and he says, oh man, who are you? The man, he says that I am Ali ibn al-Hussein Zainul Abidin. The moment he says this, Jabir, he says that, oh man, Atiya told me there was an old man in this caravan, but you say that you are Ali ibn al-Hussein. The Imam says, oh Jabir, Asham, Asham, Asham. Oh Jabir, my father was killed, and oh Jabir, we were taken as prisoners, and oh Jabir, the veils of our women were taken. You know, after that, it stated the women, they would go towards the grave of Imam al-Hussein, but as each of the women were going towards the grave, it stated that Sayyida Zainab would go slowly to the grave of her brother. You know, why would Sayyida Zainab go slowly? It's stated that Sayyida Zainab, when she comes to the grave of her brother, she falls upon the grave of Aba Abdullah, and she says, oh my brother, forgive Zainab. I say, oh Zainab, why are you asking for forgiveness? She says, oh my brother, you gave me one amanat, you gave me a trust to look after. I didn't bring your amanat with you to Karbala, but rather I left that amana in the prison in Sham. Ala la'natullah lil qawm al-dhalimin. سيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون مات من حسين.
اے غریب الغرباء، اے میرے بھائی رضا، اے غریب الغرباء، اے میرے بھائی رضا، رو کے معصوم آئے کم، رو کے معصوم آئے کم، کم سے دیتی ہے صدا، اے میرے بھائی رضا، اے غریب الغرباء، اے میرے بھائی رضا، رو کے معصوم آئے کم، رو کے معصوم آئے کم، کم سے دیتی ہے صدا، اے میرے بھائی رضا، اے غریب الغرباء، اے میرے بھائی رضا، اے غریب الغرباء، رضا، اے غریب الغرباء، اے میرے بھائی رضا، اے غریب تیرا دیدار نہیں بھائی قسمت میں میری، دے ہواؤں کو ذرا حکم اے میرے علی، سن لوں آواز تیری، سن لوں آواز تیری، دل بہل جائے میرا، اے میرے بھائی رضا، اے غریب الغرباء، اے میرے بھائی رضا، اے غریب دیکھنے آئی ہوں میں قم سے صورت تیری، اے غریب غربا دیکھ غربت میری، کوئی بتلاتا نہیں، کوئی بتلاتا نہیں مجھ کو مشہد کا پتہ، اے میرے بھائی رضا، اے غریب الغربا، اے میرے بھائی رضا، اے غریب الغربا، مجھ پہ جو بیت گئے وہ علم کچھ بھی نہیں، سامنے زینب زینب کے میرے غم کچھ بھی نہیں. میں نہ بازار گئی, میں نہ بازار گئی, ناچنی میری ردا اے میرے بھائی رضا. اے غریب الغربا اے میرے بھائی رضا. اے غریب جب سے پہنچی ہوں میں قم, دل ہے قابو میں کہاں. غم زدہ آئے نظر شہر کے پیر و جوان, دیکھ کر کالے علم, دیکھ کر کالے علم, دل ڈہلتا ہے میرا اے میرے بھائی رضا. اے غریب الغربا اے میرے بھائی رضا. اے غریب ہوں یتیمہ لیکن وہ یتیمہ تو نہیں, قیدی بابا کی قسم میں سکینہ تو نہیں. جس کے گوہر بیچنے, جس کے گوہر بیچنے, جس کا دامن بھی جلا اے میرے بھائی رضا. اے غریب الغربا اے میرے بھائی رضا. اے میں غریب رو کے معصوم آئے کم, رو کے معصوم آئے کم, قم سے دیتی ہے صدا اے میرے بھائی رضا. سادات کربلا, سادات کربلا, چہلم کو کربلا میں جب آئیں وہ بیبیاں, سادات کربلا, سادات کربلا, ہر بی بی کر رہی تھی کچھ فطر ہاتھ سے گریا, چہلم کو کربلا میں جب آئیں وہ بیبیاں, چہلم کو کربلا بائیں وہ بیبیاں, کچھ بیبیاں یہاں ہیں کچھ بیبیاں وہاں, کرتی ہوئی فغاں, کرتی ہوئی فغاں, بکھری ہوئی تھی مقتل سرور میں جا بجا, کربلا چہلم کو کربلا میں جب آئیں وہ بیبیاں سادات کربلا. ایک بی بی دشت خونی میں جاتی ہے نہر پر کہتی بچشم تر کہتی بچشم تر عباس دینے آئی ہوں پرسا سکینہ کا سادات کربلا سادات کربلا چہلم کو کربلا میں جب آئی وہ بیبیاں سادات کربلا. گھٹ گھٹ کے لاڈلی تیری زنداں میں مر گئی تربت وہیں بنی تربت وہیں بنی. بھیا وہ قید سے نہ ہوئی میں کہ بھی جدا سادات کربلا سادات کربلا چہلم کو کربلا میں جب آئی وہ بیبیاں سادات کربلا. اکبر کی قبر پر یوں ہوئی لیلا نوحہ گئے دیکھا نہ سال بھر دیکھا نہ سال بھر. آئی ہوں قید شام سے اب ہو کہ میں رہا سادات کربلا سادات کربلا چہلم کو کربلا میں جب آئی وہ بیبیاں سادات کربلا. بانو یہ بہن کرتی تھی اے میرے بے زباں ماں ڈھونڈے اب کہاں بتلا دے ہے کہاں میرا اصغر ہے کربلا سادات کربلا سادات کربلا چہلم کو کربلا میں جب آئی وہ بیبیاں سادات کربلا. قربان تیرے اے میرے ماں جا اے بے وطن مجبور تھی بہن مجبور تھی بہن زندہ میں مجھ سے تیری امانت ہوئی جدا سادات کربلا سادات کربلا چہلم کو کربلا میں جب آئی وہ بیبیاں سادات کربلا. بھیا تیرے چہلم کے لیے آئی ہے زینب بھیا تیرے چہلم کے لیے آئی ہے زینب دکھ پائی ہے دکھ پائی ہے دکھ پائی ہے زینب بھیا تیرے چہلم کے لیے آئی بھیا زندہ میں لہت بالی سکینہ کی بنا کر، بائی کے امانت کو تہ خاک چپا کر، ساتھ اپنے لٹے قافلے کو لائی ہے زینب، بھیا تیرے چیلم کے لیے، بھیا ہر ٹوٹے ہوئے دل کو سہارا بھی دیا ہے، ہر درد میں کنڈے کو دلاسا بھی دیا ہے، ہر حال میں ہر بیوی کو سمجھائی ہے زینب، بھیا رنج و علم و یاس ہے عباس نہیں ہے، جز عابد بیمار کوئی پاس نہیں ہے، بس ایک امانت یہ بچا لائی ہے زینب، بھیا کے لیے بھیا بھیا تم ہی بتلاؤ وطن جا کے کروں کیا، سغرا تمہیں پوچھے گی تو بولو میں کہوں کیا، جہاں بھی یہ خیال آیا ہے گھبرائی ہے زینب، بھیا تیرے چیلم کے لیے آئی ہے زینب، بھیا سکینہ نے کہا ڈر کے ظالم کے تماچوں سے سکینہ نے کہا اب تو آ جاؤ ہمیں اب تو آ جاؤ ہمیں پانی پلانے والے یہ راز کیا ہے دنیا کے بنانے والے کوفہ اور شام کا دستور نرالا دیکھا کوفہ اور شام کا دستور نرالا دیکھا قتل کرتے ہیں وہ قتل کرتے ہیں وہ مہمان بلانے والے یہ راز کیا ہے دنیا کے بنانے والے کیوں لرزتی ہے زمین اور اداسی کیوں ہے کیوں لرزتی ہے زمین اور اداسی کیوں ہے کون ہے شام کے بازار میں آنے والے یہ راز کیا ہے دنیا کے بنانے والے راز کیا ہے دنیا کے بنانے والے راز کیا ہے دنیا کے بنانے والے بے سہارا ہے تیرا بے سہارا ہے تیرا دین بچانے والے راز کیا ہے دنیا کے بنانے والے یا حسین یا حسین اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد السلام عليك يا رسول الله السلام عليك يا نبي الله السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين يا سيد الوسيين علي بن أبي طالب عليهم السلام السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء يا سيدة نساء العالمين السلام على الحسن والحسين سيدي شباب أهل الجنة وعلي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر اللهم صل على علي بن موسى الرضا المرتضى الإمام التقي النقي والحجة كألا من فوق الأرض ومن تحت الثرى الصديق الشهيد صلاة كثيرة تامة ذاكية متواصلة متواترة مترادفة كأفضل ما صليت على أحد من أوليائك السلام على محمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي والحجة الخلف القائم المهدي السلام عليك يا صاحب الزمان السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن السلام عليك يا إمام الإنس والجان أجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله مخرجك وزهورك وجعلنا من أنصارك وعوانك السلام عليكم يا أهل بيت النبوة جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم كن وليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك توعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. يا علي حيدري